The courtroom was cold, sterile, clinical, like it had been scrubbed clean of emotion. But Maya Carter could feel every raw nerve in her body pulsing beneath her skin. She sat stiffly at the plaintiff's table, hands clasped in her lap, trembling. Her breath came shallow, quiet, almost reverent, as if she were trying not to exist too loudly. Across the aisle, her mother-in-law, Janice Carter, watched her with undisguised contempt, lips curled in a sneer that didn't bother hiding its intent. You brought this on yourself. And beside Janice, Ethan Carter Maya's husband, soon-to-be, sat in a composed, almost detached manner, his tailored navy suit untouched by a single wrinkle. He adjusted his tie like he was preparing for a business negotiation, not a war for custody. Of what, though? They had no children. Your Honor, Ethan's attorney stood, voice ringing with crisp authority. We intend to prove that Mrs. Carter deliberately sabotaged her husband's desire for a family by secretly taking birth control pills for the last 3 years of their marriage. Gasps filled the gallery like a sudden wind rustling through the room. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Maya didn't flinch. She felt her cheeks burn, her eyes sting. She didn't look at Ethan. She couldn't. Her gaze dropped to the polished wood of the table in front of her, unfocused. Her lawyer reached over, gently touched her arm, but Maya didn't react. Because it was true. She had hidden the pills every day for 3 years. Tucked behind the mirror in the master bathroom, carefully concealed behind an old bottle of mouthwash Ethan never used. Every morning, when he left for his run, she took one. And every night, she smiled at him like everything was fine. The silence in the courtroom was deafening. The judge's eyes, sharp and unreadable, flicked toward Maya. Mrs. Carter, is there truth to this allegation? Maya opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her throat clenched. She couldn't speak. Not yet. Her mind spun backward 3 nights ago. Ethan's voice, thunderous, echoed in her skull. You lied to me every single day. She had walked in to find him standing in front of the bathroom mirror, the pill packet trembling in his hand like a loaded weapon. His face had been a storm. Betrayal, fury, heartbreak. She tried to steady herself, but the room tilted. She said nothing, just stood there, frozen. No excuses, no lies. Not this time. 3 years, Maya, he hissed. 3 damn years. Were you ever going to tell me? She had looked at him then, really looked, and still said nothing, even. Now, in this courtroom, she couldn't say it, that she was terrified, that her body never felt safe, that she'd once held a child in her womb for 4 months, only to lose it in the middle of a grocery store aisle, alone and bleeding, that she'd decided, without asking, without discussing, that she couldn't go through that again. But here, in front of strangers and a judge with a gavel, her silence sounded like guilt. Ethan's eyes bore into her across the courtroom, waiting, daring her to deny it, but she didn't, because the truth was, she had betrayed him, just not in the way they all thought. Maya Carter was the kind of woman people admired, quietly soft-spoken, gracious, thoughtful. Her students at Lincoln High adored her, often lingering after class just to share poems or ask about books. She had that gentle presence, like a whisper in a storm, calming and attentive, but under the polished surface, beneath the kind eyes and tailored blouses, was a quiet, persistent ache. Maya had learned young that silence was a shield. Orphaned at 15 after her parents died in a car accident, she was shipped off to live with her mother's sister, Aunt Claudine, a cold, Woman with rigid expectations and little affection. Love, Maya discovered, could be conditional. Safety was found in being agreeable, invisible, careful. She learned to make herself small, to avoid conflict, to apologize even when she wasn't wrong. And somewhere along the way, that quiet, compliant version of herself became the only self she knew how to be. Meeting Ethan had felt like being seen for the first time. He was magnetic, confident, successful, funny. A marketing executive with a six-figure salary and the smile of someone used to winning. He pursued her relentlessly, showering her with gifts, praise, attention. For the first time in years, Maya felt wanted, not tolerated, not an obligation, wanted. They married after just 11 months. At first, it was everything she thought. She needed the house with the stone fireplace, brunches with friends, vacations to Santorini and Aspen, matching outfits on Instagram. People would comment, couple goals. From the outside, they looked perfect. But it wasn't long before Ethan's charm revealed its conditions. He didn't like Maya's old college friends, too single, too bitter, and gradually they disappeared from her life. He asked her to stop wearing certain dresses, too tight, too much skin, so she folded them away. When she spent more than $100 on anything, he'd question her. "You work in public education, Maya. Let's not pretend you're funding this life." It was always subtle, veiled as concern or logic, but it accumulated like dust in corners, slowly smothering her. His control didn't come through fists or yelling, it came through tone, silence, pressure, expectations. His mother, Margaret, was no different. Always smiling, always polite. But each interaction landed like a slap beneath a silk glove. "That dress is lovely, Maya, but don't you think it hides your waist a little too much? Or, you've been married 5 years, and Ethan's such a natural with kids. Have you two considered a fertility specialist?" Margaret said it all sweetly, like she was helping. But the message was clear. Maya hadn't delivered. Not the right dress, not the right energy, and certainly not the baby. Ethan's dream had always been to be a father. He said it often, early and urgently. "I want to coach soccer, Maya. I want someone to carry on the Carter name." And Maya, knowing what it would cost, her had nodded and smiled. She tried. She let herself believe she could do it. That time would heal the wound she carried. But every mention of children made her chest tighten. Every diaper commercial, every ultrasound photo on Facebook, every time Ethan casually remarked, "When we have a son," her body reacted like a memory she couldn't erase. She flinched to fireworks, loud doors, raised voices, things Ethan never seemed to notice. Her trauma lived close to the skin, and it wasn't just about fear, it was about grief, about the tiny life she'd once carried and lost. 4 months in, alone in a grocery store, bleeding onto a white tile floor while strangers looked on in confusion and pity. She never told Ethan. She never told anyone. It had been before him, back when she was 19, in college, with a boy who didn't stay. She buried it so deep, it felt like a story that belonged to someone else, but it lived in her body still, so Maya made a quiet, heartbreaking decision. She went on the pill. She told herself it was temporary, that she'd find the courage eventually, that she'd explain. But months became years, and the truth became a prison she didn't know how to unlock. Now Ethan had found the pills, and instead of talking, instead of asking, he'd gone to court, filed for divorce, demanded full control of their assets, accused her of marital fraud, a phrase that made her feel like a criminal for protecting her own body. Her lawyer urged her to fight. She had rights. She could prove coercive control. But Maya had shaken her head. She didn't want the house. She didn't want the money. She just wanted out. Everyone saw her silence as surrender. But they didn't understand that walking away empty-handed wasn't weakness, it was survival. The courtroom was quiet now, empty except for the echo of distant footsteps and the fading scent of wood polish and anxiety. Maya sat still, fingers clenched around the hem of her coat. Denise, sharp-eyed and fiercely loyal, closed the thick case file with a snap and walked over to her. "Maya," she said gently but firmly, "you have to let me help you. Why did you do it? Why hide the pills?" Maya didn't answer at first. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes stayed on the floor. Denise waited. Knowing this silence meant more than avoidance, it meant fear, hurt, something deeper. After a long pause, Maya finally spoke, her voice barely audible. "Because if I had a child, I would have been trapped forever, and I can't risk my child living the life I lived." Denise frowned, stepping closer. "What does that mean?" Maya exhaled shakily, like the breath had been lodged in her chest for years. She looked up, her eyes dark with memories. "When I was a kid, someone close to my mother hurt me. I told her. I trusted her. But she didn't believe me. She took his side." The words sat heavy between them. Denise's face softened, but she stayed quiet, letting Maya speak on her own terms. "I learned early that my voice didn't matter, that love could mean ignoring pain, that silence was easier for everyone else. So I made a promise to myself. I wouldn't bring a child into this world until I could be sure, absolutely sure, that I'd never repeat that kind of damage." Denise nodded slowly, listening intently. "I thought Ethan would be different," Maya continued. "I thought being with him would help me heal, and for a while it did. But then the pressure started. The questions, he'd say things like, 'What kind of woman doesn't want a family?' Or 'You'll change your mind when it's too late.' It didn't feel like a conversation. It felt like a warning." She looked away, voice quiet but clear. "So I started taking the pill in secret. I didn't want to lie, but I didn't feel safe saying no." Denise inhaled sharply. "Maya, that's not just a disagreement. That's emotional manipulation, coercion. You were cornered." Maya shook her head, her voice growing small again. "He never hit me. He didn't scream. But he made me feel like I was broken, like I owed him something. And I knew if I gave in and had that baby, I'd lose the only piece of control I had left." Denise leaned against the bench, her tone fierce now. "This changes everything. We can countersue emotional abuse, psychological coercion. We'll make sure the court hears your side." But Maya flinched at the suggestion. "No, please. If I push back, he'll come at me harder. He knows how to turn people against me. You saw how he was in court today. He's calm, polite, charming. No one would believe me." Denise was silent for a moment. Then she sat beside her, close but not crowding. "You don't have to do anything you're not ready for," she said carefully. "But I need you to know you're not wrong, and you're not alone in this. What he did, how he made you feel, it matters." Maya gave a slow nod, the weight in her chest shifting ever so slightly. The fear wasn't gone, but now it was sitting beside something else. Something small but real. A seed, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of a fight. The weeks after the hearing unravel like thread from a torn seam. Ethan, with his polished charm and practiced sincerity, launches his campaign without a hint of hesitation. He doesn't name Maya directly in his online posts. He doesn't have to. A carefully worded Instagram story. Asterisk, some people fake infertility the way others fake love. A cryptic tweet. Asterisk, imagine building a life with someone who lies for sport. Margaret follows suit, whispering venom into garden parties and church pews. To their friends, to neighbors, to former colleagues. She's not well, you know. There's always been instability. Poor Ethan's been carrying her for years. It spreads like wildfire. By the end of the month, 2 of Maya's closest friends, Sophie and Jenna, stop answering her calls. One sends a brief message. Asterisk, I just need space right now. Hope you understand. And Maya, ever understanding, says nothing in return. The school district places her on administrative leave. Until things quiet down, the principal explains, with a sympathetic smile. You're a respected teacher, Maya, but the board's worried about the distraction. She packs up her classroom in silence, watching as a decade of student essays and motivational posters is boxed into anonymity. The walls are bare when she leaves, like she was never there at all. At home, the silence is louder. The apartment feels smaller than ever, just a 1-bedroom rental with mismatched furniture and faint water stains on the ceiling, but it is hers. And yet, the walls echo with doubt. Denise calls often, urging her to take back control. You need to speak, Maya, on your terms. Get ahead of the lies. But Maya isn't ready. Not yet. The nights are the worst. That's when the memories push through. She dreams in fragments of a door slamming, her mother's boyfriend's shadow stretching long across the hallway. In one nightmare, she's 10 again, crouched beneath the bed, heart pounding so loud it feels like thunder. Her little sister Leah is huddled next to her, shaking. The door shudders under a series of violent kicks. Her mother screams something, maybe a name, maybe nothing. And all Maya can think is asterisk. Don't breathe, don't move, don't let him find us. Asterisk, she wakes in a cold sweat, hands gripping the sheets like lifelines. That image follows her for days. Leah's small face, the fear, the silence that came after. One Saturday, on impulse, Maya takes a bus out of the city. It's been years since she's spoken to Leah too, many wounds. Too much distance, but she finds herself standing at the door of her sister's apartment anyway. Leah answers, surprised but not cold. She's 24 now, sharper than Maya. Remembers, with a quiet strength in her eyes, that Maya had never noticed before. They sit at Leah's kitchen table, tea cooling between them. The silence is heavy, but not hostile. Maya struggles to find the words. I didn't protect you, she finally says. I should have gotten us out. Leah's eyes soften. You did. Maya shakes her head. No, I let it happen. I stayed. Quiet. I let him touch me so he wouldn't come for you. And I thought if I could just take it, maybe you'd get to be a kid a little longer. Leah's voice is steady. You were a kid, too, Maya. Maya looks away, throat burning. But Leah reaches out, her fingers grazing her sister's hand. I remember hiding under that bed, Leah says. I remember you holding me. I remember the way you made up stories so I wouldn't be scared. I knew what was happening. Maybe not all of it, but enough. And I knew you were standing between me and him. Tears spill down Maya's cheeks, slow, silent. Leah keeps her hand there, firm and grounding. You were my shield, she says. And I never forgot that. It's the first time Maya has ever heard those words. The first time someone has seen the child she was, not the woman she failed to become. And in that moment, something inside her shifts. Not completely, not all at once, but the weight of guilt that's lived in her chest for nearly 2 decades starts to crack. They talk for hours about their mother, about the years they lost, about the anger and the grief. Before Maya leaves, Leah hugs her tightly and whispers into her ear, "You don't owe anyone motherhood. You owe yourself peace." Maya walks home with those words stitched into her bones. Later that night, she opens her laptop for the first time in weeks. She stares at a blank document, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat. Her hands tremble as she begins to type. Not a press release, not a public statement, just the truth. Her truth, because maybe, just maybe, she's tired of being silent. The courtroom is packed on the final day of the hearing, reporters lingering in the back row. A few curious onlookers, and Margaret Carter sitting primly behind Ethan, her hands folded in her lap like royalty awaiting a verdict. Ethan looks confident, even smug, dressed in a dark suit with his tie neatly knotted, his jaw tense but composed. Maya sits beside Denise, her spine straight, her expression unreadable. But inside, her heart pounds with the force of 1,000 truths finally clawing their way to the surface. Denise rises first, her voice clear. "Your Honor, my client, Mrs. Maya Carter, would like to make a statement." There's a stir in the gallery as Maya stands and walks slowly to the witness stand. She's dressed simply, no makeup, no flair, just herself. Honest, bare, and brave. She takes the oath with steady hands, then looks out across the courtroom. Her eyes flicker over Ethan briefly. He doesn't blink, but then she lifts her gaze to the judge. "I didn't come here to fight over money," Maya begins, voice soft but unwavering. "I didn't even come here to clear my name. I came here because, for the first time in my life, I'm done being silent." The room quiets further. "I took birth control during my marriage," she continues. "Not because I didn't love my husband, not because I wanted to trick him or cheat him out of a family, but because I was afraid, because I wasn't ready. And I will never apologize for making sure I don't pass down trauma I haven't healed." Her voice falters for a moment, but she breathes through it. "I was sexually abused as a child. My mother didn't believe me. I grew up learning that safety was conditional, that my body didn't belong to me. And when I met Ethan, I thought, maybe I could rewrite that story. But I learned, slowly and painfully, that control doesn't always come with fists. Sometimes it comes dressed as protection. Sometimes it sounds like love." There's a subtle shift in the room now. Margaret stiffens, her face tightening. Ethan glances at his lawyer, suddenly uneasy. "I wanted to go to therapy," Maya says, "to process what I'd been through. But every time I brought it up, Ethan told me it would make things worse, that we should keep our problems private. He wanted a child more than anything, and every time I hesitated, he'd remind me what a good life we had, that I owed it to him, that I was ruining our marriage by holding back. So I started hiding the pills. Not because I wanted to lie, but because I didn't feel safe saying no." She sits back down, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The judge nods, face somber. Then Denise stands again. "Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to submit new evidence into the record." The judge allows it. Denise approaches the bench with a folder. "We recently obtained documents showing Mr. Carter installed tracking software on Mrs. Carter's phone, routinely accessed her bank account without consent, and interfered with at least 3 separate attempts she made to schedule therapy over the course of their marriage. Gasps ripple through the room. Ethan's lawyer rises in protest, but the judge silences him with a raised hand. Furthermore, Denise continues, we have testimony from a former IT technician who serviced Mr. Carter's phone, confirming that he installed location tracking apps disguised as calendar software. We also have emails Ethan sent to Maya's employer, flagged as anonymous concerns about her mental health, corresponding exactly with the time she was preparing to file for separation. Ethan leans forward, his composure cracking. That's ridiculous. I was protecting her. She didn't know what she needed. The judge cuts him off. Mr. Carter, you'll have your turn, but the damage is already done. The courtroom has turned cold, the undercurrent of disbelief shifting now toward disgust. Even Margaret looks rattled, her lips pressed in a tight line as her son slumps slightly in his chair, and then Denise delivers the final blow. Your Honor, with the court's permission, we would like to submit a personal journal kept by Mrs. Carter during her marriage. These entries document years of psychological manipulation, fear, and unresolved trauma. The judge nods. Denise reads aloud. Her voice is steady, unwavering, even as the words tremble in the air. Asterisk, he tells me I'm lucky to have him, that no one else would understand me, that if I just gave him a child, everything would be fine. But I still wake up sometimes with my heart racing, dreaming of doors slamming and voices yelling and being 10 years old again. I wonder what kind of mother I'd be, broken like this. And I hate that the one place I should feel safe, my marriage feels like a cage. Asterisk, Maya's eyes well, but she doesn't cry. She watches Ethan as the words hang in the air. He looks down now, no longer cocky, no longer calm. The judge lifts a hand, pausing the proceedings. We'll take a recess before final deliberation. Everyone stands. Maya stays seated. For the first time, she's not shaking. She's not silent. She's free. When the judge returns from recess, the tension in the courtroom has settled into something different, weighty, expectant, but no longer on Ethan's side. The ruling is swift. Ethan's petition for full asset custody and charges of marital fraud are dismissed with prejudice. The judge calls his actions coercive, manipulative, and deeply troubling, and grants Maya a restraining order effective immediately. Ethan doesn't speak as the gavel falls. His face is pale, drawn tight around the realization that he no longer holds the power. Margaret gathers her purse with trembling hands, casting a final glance toward Maya, one of disbelief, perhaps, even fear. But Maya doesn't look back. Outside the courthouse, Maya declines interviews. She's not here to be a headline. She only speaks to Denise, embracing her lawyer with a quiet, heartfelt thank you that carries more than words ever could. Maya doesn't ask for spousal support or damages. She doesn't want Ethan's money, his name, or any tether to that life. But she does fight for one thing: the house. The small 2-bedroom she bought with her teacher's salary before Ethan came into her world. The court agrees. It's hers, finally, wholly hers. The days that follow are quiet, but different. Lighter. Maya starts therapy again, this time without hiding it, without apology. Her new therapist is gentle but direct, and for the first time, Maya doesn't dance around her past. She walks straight into it. Session by session, she rewrites the story she once believed was etched in stone. She also begins attending a weekly support group for trauma survivors. At first, she just listens. But one night, in a dimly lit church, Basement filled with folding chairs and coffee cups, she shares her story. Anonymously, her voice doesn't shake. One of the women cries. Another reaches out and squeezes Maya's hand when the meeting ends. At home, Leah moves in temporarily, while searching for her own place. The sisters fall into a rhythmly night talks over tea, morning walks, cooking dinner in mismatched pajamas. Sometimes they laugh like they did as kids. Other times they sit in silence, content just to be near each other. They hang old photos. On the fridge, Maya's graduation, Leah's first apartment, their mother in better days. It's not about forgetting the past, but facing it together. They're no longer alone. One afternoon, Maya clears out the medicine cabinet. She moves with purpose, hands calm, movements deliberate. She finds the last packet of birth control pills tucked behind a half-used bottle of mouthwash. For a moment, she just holds it. The foil glints in the light, a silent witness to the years she lived in quiet fear. Then, without ceremony, she opens the toilet lid and flushes them. Not because she's ready for children, not because the past is erased, but because she is no longer afraid, no longer surviving in secrecy. She has reclaimed her life, her body, her voice. Later that night, she opens a blank document on her laptop and types the title, *The Silence I Survived. It's not a book yet, just an idea, but it's hers. And for the first time, she's writing not to hide but to be seen. The sun filters through the leaves above, casting golden flecks of light across Maya's skin as she sits under the old oak tree in her backyard. The air is warm, still, and for the first time in a long while quiet in a way that feels safe. She pulls her sweater closer around her shoulders, a soft breeze rustling the pages of the notebook resting on her lap. Her pen moves slowly, deliberately, as she writes. Sometimes survival looks like silence, but healing. Healing sounds like your own voice. She pauses, rereading the sentence, then underlines the last 4 words. A small smile tugs at the corner of her mouth. Her gaze lifts toward the sky, soft and hazy above the treetops. There's no rush in her body, no tightness in her chest, just stillness, presence, peace. Her phone vibrates beside her on the grass. She hesitates, then picks it up. A new email. The subject line reads, We'd love to discuss your manuscript. A publisher, interested. Her breath catches for just a moment, not out of fear, but wonder. She stares at the screen, heart swelling. Then she turns it over, letting the phone rest face down on the ground. She gently closes the notebook, pressing her palm against the cover like sealing something sacred. She leans back against the tree trunk and closes her eyes, letting the warmth of the moment wash over her. She is no longer hiding, no longer silent. She is seen and she is ready.